also, there's a couple of really funny editorials, essays in that book about time and the idea that the woke have this crazy idea that, you know, people who lived 500 years ago really should have known better.
Yeah.
You know, they have this magic moral time machine where they imagine what they would be doing in 1758, and it's always better than what
And it wouldn't have been using the term master bedroom.
No. That's another thing, yes.
Right?
And again, that's another point I'm always trying to make, is that the difference between old school liberals like me and the woke is things like that. People, I think, have this idea that wokeness is an extension of liberalism, and it very often is something that goes so far, it actually turns around and becomes the opposite.
Yes.
Bill Maher joined Megyn Kelly for what began as a casual conversation. But once the topic shifted to woke culture, things heated up fast. The calm exchange turned into a fiery debate. Voices sharpened, and suddenly it felt more like a clash than a chat. Maher didn't hold back, arguing that woke culture isn't the next step in liberalism. It's something entirely different and far more extreme. Watching him break ranks with the far left was both surprising and telling. Buckle up. This conversation gets intense.
The problem with wokeness is nobody ever gets canceled for being too woke. That's how you wind up with men can get pregnant.
Yeah.
Because you can say the most ridiculous thing, and because no one wants to be the one who's called out on Twitter, they'll be like, "Oh, sure, men pregnant."
Sure.
I've always said that. I saw a dude who was glowing today. You know, it's just so ridiculous what you can get away with saying, and just the intimidation factor.
Maher is fearlessly calling out his own side. The liberals who secretly roll their eyes at the far left but stay silent out of fear. He argues that many know woke ideology has spiraled out of control, yet they bite their tongues, scared of being attacked or canceled. That silence, Maher says, is exactly what keeps the problem alive. He believes it's time for real liberals to reclaim their voice before the movement they built loses its core values. To Maher, this isn't just about politics. It's about preserving free thought itself. If people don't start pushing back, he warns, fear and conformity will erase everything liberalism once stood for.
You don't seem like someone who's ever felt that. Have you managed to escape
Felt
ever
what?
afraid of blowback from your own side?
Well, I mean, come on, I've been on 31 years. It comes with the territory every week. When people say to me on Saturday, "How'd the show go last night?" I'd say, if I'm not canceled today, it went great. You know, I mean, they're always looking to take you down, and the knives are always out. But, you know, I feel like at this point, after 31 years, if they wind up getting me, okay, I had a pretty good run.
That's right.
And also, I think there's just a lot of people who have my back, and they appreciate what I do, and they appreciate me having that bond with my audience, that I don't pull a punch, and I never will. And it's made me, you know, lose some audience. That's true. I say it in the introduction to the book. I say, I have lost some people, and I don't miss them. Those are the more woke people.
Maher has taken endless heat, even from his own side, yet he's never backed down. Over the years, he's built the kind of backbone that doesn't bend under pressure from the woke mob. And you've got to respect that, whether you agree with him or not. His refusal to cave earns real credibility. Maher keeps calling out what he sees as the flaws of the modern left. Policies that claim to promote unity, but end up dividing and silencing people instead. In a time when most voices tremble at the thought of backlash, his unapologetic honesty feels like a rare and refreshing dose of courage.
But the left, yes, went off the deep end also, in their own way. And so what I always tell people who are Democrats and liberals is, you don't have to lecture me about Donald Trump. I'm the one who was sounding the alarm bells before anybody. But I also get why people vote for him. I absolutely do. Because the stuff that, for example, you just said is in the swimming pool, and the stuff that is threatening to people that comes from the left is so much more in their everyday life. It's not vague. Like to most people, what's Trump and democracy? It's a vague thought. And Ukraine, that's very far away. Was it impeachable? Who knows? But I know about my kid coming home from school and saying, well, they're telling me I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what resonates with so many of us. Maher's frustration isn't coming from hate. It's coming from plain common sense. He's furious about policies that let biological men enter women's bathrooms, calling it a complete breakdown of logic and personal boundaries. Even more alarming to him is how some schools are pushing kids toward life-changing decisions about gender while keeping parents out of the conversation. That's not progress, he argues. That's confusion dressed up as compassion. Maher's message cuts through the noise. When ideology starts replacing biology, reason, and parental rights, society begins to crumble. And that's why he keeps speaking up, no matter how fierce the backlash gets.
We discussed on your show when I was a guest, suggesting to your perfectly normal son that he might be a girl. At my all-boys school, they kept asking them over and over, raise your hand. Well, where are you on the scale of girl to boy, 0 through 5?
I did an editorial only like 3 weeks ago, and I used the word entrapment. I mean, it was about comparing what goes on in the schools with entrapment. I don't think anybody had ever put it that way. But entrapment in the law, I'm sure you know this better than I do, means suggesting someone into a crime.
Yep.
Something they wouldn't have thought of to do anyway. I mean, I used the example of after 9/11, there were a number of cases where law enforcement basically entrapped people who were not really going to be terrorists. The one case I mentioned was the Liberty 7 guys in Liberty City, Miami, a poor section of Miami. And
according to Maher, the radical left has perfected a dangerous psychological game, one he calls a form of subtle manipulation. He believes they're quietly planting ideas about gender transition in the minds of young, impressionable students. It often begins with seemingly harmless questions from teachers or counselors. Do you ever feel different? Or have you ever thought about being another gender? At first, most kids haven't even considered it, but repeated enough times, those questions start to stick. What begins as suggestion slowly grows into curiosity and eventually confusion. Maher argues this isn't genuine inclusion or freedom. It's guided influence disguised as compassion. And the real danger, he warns, is that it reshapes developing minds before they're mature enough to grasp the lifelong consequences.
For people who say to me, you make fun of the left more than you used to. Yes, I do. First of all, I'm a comedian, and you're a lot funnier than you used to be. Not intentionally, but you are. Not just pregnant men and a lot of identity politics and oversensitivity and victim culture and cancel culture. There's lots of funny stuff. But if I ever needed a reason or a rationale for making the case that the left has changed, it would be this. The fact that they're now marching for the terrorists, really?
Right.
The people who see themselves as the most liberal people in the world, the social justice warriors, are standing with some of the most illiberal people in the world.
And it's honestly mind-bending. How can liberals who claim to fight for freedom align themselves with ideologies that completely reject those very values? The hypocrisy is staggering. These groups enforce laws so harsh and oppressive that even the most conservative Americans would find them extreme. In their societies, women are stripped of fundamental rights, forbidden from driving, voting, or even showing their faces in public. The ideals of gender equality and personal liberty that liberals claim to uphold are crushed without mercy under such regimes. So the question is, how can those who preach tolerance and women's empowerment ignore, or worse, defend, cultures that openly subjugate women? The irony is almost unbearable. What's even more shocking is seeing members of the LGBTQ plus community stand in solidarity with movements that, in truth, would never tolerate their existence.
This is one of the big problems with the left today, is they see race in everything. So, nothing ever, and again, as the guy who is trying to be the common sense person in the middle, just speak for the normies, everything, I think, to a lot of people strikes it the way it strikes me, as we start with one thing, this idea over here, and then we're all the way on the other side over here. In this issue, of course, as we were saying over there are people who are bigoted, and that's wrong. And of course, it's great that we got more impatient with racism in this country. That is the appropriate response I think we should have toward racism, being impatient with it. And then it goes all the way to, and no one who is a person of color can ever do anything wrong. That's how you get, we don't talk about China.
Now, the topic most people tiptoe around, but Maher dives straight in. Crime doesn't come with a skin color, religion, or political label. It's a human issue. Yet today's hypersensitive culture has twisted that reality. Crimes committed by white offenders dominate headlines and spark national debates, while similar acts by so-called marginalized groups are often ignored or excused under the banner of social justice. Maher sees this as a dangerous double standard that undermines the very foundation of equality.
Also, there's a couple of really funny editorials, essays in that book about time and the idea that the woke have this crazy idea that, people who lived 500 years ago really should have known better.
Yeah.
They have this magic moral time machine where they imagine what they would be doing in 1758, and it's always better than...
And it wouldn't have been using the term master bedroom.
No. That's another thing, yes. Right? And again, that's another point I'm always trying to make, is that the difference between old school liberals like me and the woke is things like that. People, I think, have this idea that wokeness is an extension of liberalism, and it very often is something that goes so far, it actually turns around and becomes the opposite.
Yes.
Bill Maher has officially had enough of the far left, and honestly, it's hard to blame him. He says they've drifted so far from real liberalism that they've become something entirely different. In Maher's view, the fringe left no longer values open debate, free thinking, or genuine tolerance, the very pillars liberalism was built on. Instead, they've turned activism into a competition of moral superiority and revisionist outrage. What really gets under Maher's skin is their obsession with judging history by today's standards, as if they alone would have been the heroes of the past. He calls that pure arrogance. To Maher, this kind of self-righteousness isn't progress, it's intellectual decay. The fringe left, he argues, doesn't want to understand or improve society. They just want to signal virtue and feel morally superior. And that, he warns, marks the slow death of true liberalism.
The thing that you just mentioned about master bedroom or, blacklist, or these terms.
Rule of thumb.
JIP, reservation, I guess we're not supposed to say because it, insulting to the Indians. What are you supposed to say when you go to a restaurant?
There's something wrong with picnic, too. We're not allowed to say picnic anymore. I can't remember why.
We have we're supposed to eat here?
Right.
It's just, so again, wokeness seems a lot about canceling people, catching people at something, renaming stuff. Liberalism was at least about trying to fix things. It was about trying to lift people up, the people who had been forgotten, genuinely, and there are many of them, and downtrodden. These are the people we wanted to lift up. That's different than just pointing fingers and saying, I'm more pure than you are.
That's exactly what Maher means when he talks about the woke mob, a self-anointed moral elite that believes they're smarter, purer, and more righteous than everyone else. They act like society's hall monitors, armed with outrage and ready to strike the moment someone says the wrong thing. But this isn't progress. It's punishment dressed up as virtue. Their main weapon? Language. They twist words, redefine meanings, and use them as tools to shame, silence, or destroy anyone who dares to disagree. Intent no longer matters. Only perception does. Maher warns this is more than just hypersensitivity. It's a form of intellectual control. A world where people have to measure every word, terrified of being labeled or canceled. In his eyes, that's not activism. It's linguistic tyranny, and it's slowly strangling honest conversation.
You never want to get into a who hates racism the most contest with someone on the woke left. It's like, you know what? I hate it too. Okay? Shouldn't that be enough?
Except I also hate anti-white racism, unlike them. That's the problem.
And things have changed. They also there's a essay in there about progressophobia, which was Steven Pinker's great term that he coined, that it is a real problem on the left. They do not want to acknowledge progress, which is crazy because it is the product they're selling.
Yeah.
Because somehow in their mind, if you acknowledge progress, then you're not as pure as the other person who says, no, things are still horrible. Mm-hmm. Well, lots of things are still horrible, and things just objectively are way better. Can we just live in the year we're living in?
Another point Maher makes, and one the far left refuses to admit, is how much real progress society has achieved. They act as if nothing has changed, as if we're still stuck in the 1800s. Maher finds it ridiculous that they ignore the undeniable truth. Slavery, as it once existed, is gone. Civil rights, women's rights, and equal opportunities were hard-won battles that transform nations. Today, Black Americans and women have freedoms, representation, and protections that previous generations could only dream of. Yet instead of celebrating that progress, the fringe insists on portraying modern society as irredeemably broken. For Maher, that's not activism, that's denial. Recognizing progress doesn't mean claiming everything is perfect. It means appreciating how far we've come while still striving to do better. But the extreme left thrives on outrage, not perspective, grievance, not gratitude. And that's exactly what Maher rejects. His message is simple. The woke fringe has lost its way. What began as a movement for justice has devolved into one of censorship, hypocrisy, and moral superiority. Maher isn't going conservative. He's defending reason, honesty, and balance. True liberalism, he says, should value progress, not erase it. It should welcome debate, not silence it. And as long as the woke mob keeps twisting reality to fit their narrative, Maher will keep calling them out, boldly, clearly, and unapologetically. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like